Near Post fam. We're back with another episode of the Nothing Near Post show. Fired up for this one. Got a great guest for you. We'll get through some segments here quick, and then we'll kick it over to Jacksonville associate head coach Coach Perzinski. First, quickly with line drills. I mean, obviously, being a man's man, we're betting on these games. Betting wise, last weekend we ended up positive, nothing crazy, but I saw the Baylor-Duke result going a little differently, but hey, you never give back a positive week. The other piece on March Madness, the transfer portal opening while the NCAA tournament is still in full swing is absolute madness. One Nothing Near Post listener called it, quote, diabolical, which I completely agree with. Shout out Gav Daddy, but what's also crazy is coaches taking new jobs mere minutes after their last game. When did they have time to interview? How focused could they have been on their current team? And quite honestly, we're seeing it both on the men's side and on the women's side. So just wild stuff. But that's all we got for line drills. We're going to kick it right into four quarters. All right, first quarter, the most surprising result of the past weekend. Okay, I threw out a tweet that had a few options for most surprising result. I got a bunch of votes, thanks to those who threw a vote out there in the order of least voted for to most voted for. So least to most: Denver over Duke 13-6, Dartmouth over UPenn 9-8, BU over Army 10-9, Rutgers over Hopkins 11-8. And the NNP crew voted the top spot for most surprising result was Michigan over Maryland 11-10. Now, the Michigan result was the most surprising to me as well. But after learning it was the Wolverines' fourth straight win over the Terps, it took the surprise level down a notch. Some teams just have a thing. It's usually some type of mental block, both by the players and the coaching staff. The week of prep leading up is littered with anxiety. The game plan is overthought, and on game day, guys are gripping the stick too tight, and that certainly seems to be a little bit of the case. And not taking anything away from the Wolverines, they had a great game plan. They shot the ball well, played great defense. Shout out Coach Rogowski and the Wolverines defensive unit. This result, though, is funny to me because this 4-game win streak for the Wolverines over the Terps all started after the infamous post-game handshake between Coach Connery and Coach Tillman after the Big Ten championship game in 2023 at Homewood Field. And obviously Coach Connery coached for the Terps, coached for Coach Tillman, but that was just a wild exchange. If you haven't seen it, look it up on YouTube. Classic Coach Tillman fashion, just very short, one handshake and off, and he leaves Coach Connery surprised, taken aback. But it's funny how those little moments come back to be. And again, we're probably making all of this stuff up, but it's funny how it all started there. One other piece on this game, and this was an astute observation by Coach Doug66 on Twitter. He tweeted, "Before you take the opportunity to come at Logan McNaney on only 9 saves and 45% save percentage, remember Liam Entenmann had 8 saves and was 42% against Georgetown last year. And you said he was the best ever." He's got a point. All right, the guy's got a point. McNaney will bounce back. The kid is nails, and he's upstate strong. He'll be back. I have no doubt about it. And maybe this was what Maryland needed. They needed a blemish on their record. You don't want the extra pressure of being quote unquote or being undefeated, right? And quote unquote one of the best teams in history, right? Going into April, going into Big Ten play, and then obviously going into May. So the Terps will be back. I'm not worried about them, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say this won't be the only game played between these two teams this year. So keep an eye out for that. I was really surprised by the Denver-Duke result personally. Duke's offense has not lived up to the expectations many had for it, but I'll be honest, it's doing exactly what I thought it would. It's very hard to replace an entire TAC group, especially with all transfers, and be successful. But I'll say that the creativity and in-game adjustments just aren't there from what I'm seeing. I'm gonna go ahead and place this blame on the OC, Coach 40, because if you're going to be the OC at Duke, it comes with high expectations. And this may be crazy to say, but this was a bad result for his head coaching resume that he's looking to build. Now, let's not overreact, because one game does not change the course of history. But I personally haven't seen enough from him in this role to be considered as a top candidate for the Duke job when it does inevitably open. And I've been open about talking about who those other guys are, but that result in Dallas at Highland Park was not a good one. I'm curious moving on, I'm curious what people think about the Dartmouth result. Was this more of a reflection on Dartmouth's rise under Coach Kerwin, or the down year the Quakers are having? I mean, there's a chance it's both, but if I had to choose one this week, I'm saying it's the Quakers' down year. Yes, Emmett Carroll's been good in net, but I have to say his style is beyond unconventional, and I could never, with a straight face, coach anyone to play like him. Coach Aikita's got the Quakers playing some stout defense, but they've been bad at the face-off X. The Quakers have it, 41%. And they're scoring 9.1 goals per game, with only their U-Albany game being over 11 total goals, while twice being held to 6. And that 9.1 goals per game puts them at 59th out of 74 teams in the country. I mean, even at 59th, they can say they're not last in the Ivy League, but I know Coach Abbott has higher expectations for that offense, and I certainly know that Coach Murphy has higher standards that he's set in Philadelphia. Coach Murphy being the head coach of the Penn Quakers. But next game on that list was the Rutgers. Rutgers result was less surprising because all year the Scarlet Knights have played good defense, and the Blue Jays are shorthanded on offense with Melendez still sidelined, but still on the surprising spectrum somewhere. I did not expect that one for sure. And the last one that we haven't talked about, the BU Army result, may have been the least surprising to some, given it was their 5th in a row against the Black Knights. Again, similar to the Michigan and Maryland, there's something the Dogs are doing that is kryptonite to the men of West Point. And shout out to Patty O'Regan on Twitter at Irish Mob, the number 4 Eva, EVA. It was definitely not surprising as a result to him. He called it from the beginning of the week. So shout out Patty O'Regan, Irish Mob forever. And I know Terriers dropped Tuesday against the Harvard Crimson, but really hard. You got the Harvard Crimson coming off a tough loss to an in-conference foe, and then you got BU coming off a season-defining win. That's a tough spot on Tuesday night under the lights in Alston. So, but either way, still a surprising result when you see the number 2, number 3 team go down in the country. But shout out Patty O'Regan for calling that one from the beginning of the week. But to put a bow on this, the most surprising of it all to me was actually a combination of all the results. The Michigan, Rutgers, BU, and Dartmouth all got their wins as the visiting team. And even Denver had to travel as well, but to a neutral site. I can't imagine we've seen 4 underdogs win on the road too often in the past, if at all. So really crazy weekend of lacrosse, but fun as all hell to watch. So kicking it over to the second quarter, got the Lafayette Leopards' first win over Loyola in program history, which really just means their first win in 14 tries. Nonetheless, congrats to the Leopards, Coach Myers and his coaching staff for a program win on the road, also a win on the road, at a place that the GreyHounds have dominated. They've dominated to the point of posting a 69% winning percentage at Ridley Athletic Complex since it opened. 69%, nice. But speaking of those GreyHounds, they're in uncharted territory. They are one of 3 remaining teams that are winless here in the 2025 season. It's them. They're joined by the Hampton Pirates and the Wagner Seahawks. All I got to say to that is yeesh. Third quarter, going from 3 winless teams to the last unbeaten team in the country, America's team for 2025, the Fairfield Stags. 9-0. They narrowly escaped Drexel 12-11 this weekend, and they're staring down the barrel at a hungry Stony Brook Seawolves team. And if I know anything, I know Coach Gallardi will have his Stony Brook team ready to go. This will be a clash of styles in a variety of ways. A lot like Alabama St. Mary's opening round. Alabama, the fastest paced team by KenPom standards. St. Mary's was the slowest paced team by KenPom standards. Stony Brook this year likes to control the pace and play great defense, low scoring games. Fairfield likes to be more free flowing with, up tempo and the perfect, in my opinion, amount of flash to their game offensively. But I'm more excited about the Long Island nature of Stony Brook taking on the Fairfield County culture of the Stags. All right, I know those are 2 stereotypes that I'm just slapping on schools, but they're there, and I know which way that type of fight unfolds at a house party in the Hamptons over the summer. But it will be interesting to see how it plays out between the lines this weekend at Lavalle Stadium in Port Jefferson, New York. Keep your eyes on that one for sure. All right. And then fourth quarter here. Okay, fourth quarter here. Can't go an episode without talking about CJ Kirst of Cornell. All right. This past weekend, he potted 9, and he was doing his best Klay Thompson impression. Now, before we go any further, I was only going to reference Klay Thompson as he famously scored 60 against the Pacers on just 11 dribbles. But shout out to my buddy and Nothing Near Post listener, Coach Hirsch, for making sure I knew, who's a longtime high school basketball coach. It was Dirk Nowitzki, who was the OG of bucket getters with no dribbles. So CJ Kirst doing his best Dirk/Klay Thompson impression this weekend. Mr. Kirst scored 9, and only one of them was dodging. 1. Lefty sweep. Ended up being down the alley on the lefty side. But he scored 8 catch and finish. Just incredible stuff off ball. And shout out to his teammates. I know Mikey Long was filling him up. I don't have the stats right in front of me on who else served him up a few of those looks. But shout out to his teammates as well. And I know if I know the Kirst family, which I do a little bit, I know that CJ is the first guy to go high five the dudes that threw him the rock. So big ups to Mr. Kirst. And it's interesting. He's putting together a great campaign, CJ Kirst is. All right. But Will Perry, former UNC Tar Heel midfielder, who could actually shoot the rock really well himself, had an absolute hammer, had a scorching hot take on Twitter. After CJ put up his 9, his tweet was, "Has anyone had the take that CJ Kirst might be one of the best lacrosse players to ever play?" I'm not willing to crown Mr. Kirst just yet. That has to be earned in a big way. I know he has one appearance on Memorial Day Monday in his career, and he's the clear favorite for the Tewaaraton, but I think he needs to have an epic April and an even more epic May to be in that best of all time conversation. Speaking of that and that debate, I know the hot debate this week was stardom, bench 'em, cut 'em by TLN. I'm not touching that because there's no discussion there. What I am going to say, as my friends on the NHL podcast, or on a podcast that covers hockey in the NHL, the Empty Netters, they like to say, the disrespect of the Powells in that graphic put up by TLN was inexcusable. Okay, the disrespect. The Powells they need to be in that conversation. There's no question about it. But if we are going to go there, other brothers that played at the same school, because there are brothers that didn't play at the same school, like the Erlins, right? Who else was there? The Erlins. You had the Grills played at schools. Obviously, the Kirsts all played at different schools, but they're still brothers. But you had the Bernhardts that played at Maryland, who are certainly in the conversation for some of the best leaders. I know Coach Tillman always spoke about them. Both of them played for Team USA. And then you have to shout out the troops, the Looney brothers of the Naval Academy. Thank you for your service to the Loonies, of course, but that'll be an interesting conversation for down the road, sort of the best family of lacrosse. But, again, the disrespect to leave the Powells off of that, start them, bench them, cut them, just not right. So, quick 4 quarters this week. Let's kick it right to our interview with Jacksonville University Associate Head Coach Coach Perzinski. Unbelievable interview. We talk about everything Baltimore. We talk about his playing career, some of the coaches that were influential in his career. Also talk a little bit about his defensive philosophy and how it's less X's and O's and more people-driven and sort of mentality-driven, which I absolutely loved, especially on the defensive side of the ball. We talk about his Baltimore roots and the Ravens. Wait until you hear about his Ravens sort of fandom. But yeah, let's give this one a listen. All right, on the Nothing Near Post show, we've got our guest of the week here. A Freeland, Maryland and Hereford County native, a Maryland state champion in lacrosse, a USILA All-American, a North-South senior game participant, a 2-time Poland national team captain, a 2-time ODAC champion as a player, 3 times an ODAC champion as a coach, a Virginia regional champion as a coach, assistant coach of the year for Albemarle High School, an NCAA national runner-up as a coach, a Division III assistant coach of the year, a landmark coach of the year, a landmark champion, a SoCon regular season champion, one of the best defensive minds in the country, a newly anointed uncle, and a man who can still rep 3 cookies on the bench press. Welcome to the Nothing Near Post show, Associate Head Coach for Jacksonville University Dolphins, Coach Perzinski. It is awesome to have you.
Man, Coach Silberlick, Max, I was tearing up with joy to see your face like it was back in 2010 or 2011, 2012. But then you brought up baby Evan, my new nephew. Kurt is doing great. That's my younger brother. And anyone that knows me or Coach Silberlick knows how much Kurt and my family mean to me. They're the quintessential Baltimoreans. I can say that. Born there, raised their kids there, married a girl from there, lived there. I've branched out so I can meet guys like Max. But it's become my new favorite thing of the day, getting a picture. It's like I would never been excited to look at a baby, honestly. But then it's like, that kid's pretty cool. I haven't even met him yet, but that's what the summer will be for. But that's been a nice little twist over the last month. So thanks for bringing that up.
Of course. And do you have the first baby gift lined up? Do we have like an Orioles onesie? Do we have a Ravens onesie?
He went home in an Orioles onesie. That's so amazing. I'm like, I'm not even. He might get something special with Perzinski in the back and like maybe a little stick to try to lean him our way. But I do know Dad, Kurt, is really working the angles to try to make the opening day at Camden Yards on Monday.
Wow.
So that'll be Evan 2.5 weeks old. And yeah, they opening days today, but they're going to try to, he's going to try to sneak out the Camden Yards on Monday. So.
Fun fact, I was on the Jumbotron at Camden Yards, I think probably at 1 year or just under. So we'll have to see if we can get the little guy on TV as well.
Break Devin out as well.
Exactly.
Start him now. Why not?
Why not?
Oh, that's cool. Thanks for. I didn't know you were going to mention. I forgot like half that stuff. I hear those years and I think about the players and I'm like, shit, it's over a decade now. So, oops.
It's a hell of a resume. We'll definitely touch on some of it. I think with your college coaching background and your high school coaching background, you've had a hell of a career, as you said, well over a decade now, and we'll hopefully touch on some of those things. But I think I want to start. I want to start at the beginning, Hereford County, and I know that's really important to you and a big part of your life. We'll keep it focused rather than talking about chopping wood for pops. But you played for one.
He still pushes that if I crash in between recruiting events. By the way,
good. You gotta have some calluses on your hands still. You played for the one and only legendary Coach Carl Runk in high school for the Hereford Bulls. What are some key takeaways from Coach Runk that you still have top of mind today? And if you want to mix in some Coach Runk stories or some Hereford Bull stories, would love to hear those as well.
Yeah. You are spot on with so much. Hereford is Baltimore County. It is the exit before you go to PA. So I got friends in my back door of Baltimore County, where if they go out their back door, they're in PA. But born in Harford County, a little bit east. But I went to a different elementary school every year. And but then when we got into middle school, we ended up in the sticks. The Hereford, we were the Bulls. The Hereford handshake was this, and you did this, and then you milked the udders like that, because we were, I learned how to drive a tractor in class in 8th grade, but man, I could already started tearing up seeing your face, but losing Coach Runk this past fall was near and dear to my heart. I don't know if I'm not pitching his book or anything, but the first thing I did was buy his book called Along the Way, and it's stories from him back when he started lacrosse at Arizona, and he coached Geraldo Rivera. And when you read his stories from Towson and coaching football, and when he would MC the he for anyone that knows Coach Runk or saw him on stage, he spoke a certain way, and he captivated an audience a certain way. You read his book and his chapters, and the best thing about him, it's like one page, then the next page. It's just but it reads exactly as he would speak, whether he was behind the microphone or he was in front of the locker room. It's like his little stories, which you could cry and piss yourself laughing with some of them. Like we're running Top Star Lacrosse Camp in the late 1990s with Coach Janzik, and it reads exactly as he spoke. So any of those Towson alums or those Hereford alums that when he was at Hereford from 2000 until believe he retired in 2015 or 2014, it's you just hear his voice. And so he was a remarkable man. Growing up, Max, you're a proud upstate native, still rocking the 315 area code. I'm a proud Baltimore native, rocking the 410 from when I got my phone when I was 16. I grew up in an area at Hereford High School where athletics were a big deal. It was one of those more old school football towns, where you had multiple generation of sons that grew up wanting to go play Hereford football. But our field hockey team was going to state championships. Our football team won 2 in my time there. We had state championship wrestlers. We won a football and lacrosse championship my junior year. We had women's lacrosse was awesome that put out Division I talent. So you walk down the hallway and you were surrounded by men, women that were just dudes, just studs, and we were coached that way. As much as Coach Runk is like an idol to me, I also had Coach Turnbull, who was my JV lacrosse coach, but the varsity football coach. And you couldn't get away in June without hitting your squats if you wanted to play for Hereford football. And it was just a cauldron of this unique time where cell phones weren't a big deal. You were accountable to the piece of paper of this is when your summer workouts were, and if you did it, you were part of the club. If you didn't, you were on the outside looking in. And that's all I knew going from Hereford Middle School, knowing there was this entity at the high school where if you wanted to play football, lacrosse, or anything, you were coached by hard, tough people with expectations to win. And I credit, the older I get and reflect on where you come from, I credit anything that I've been a part of and been able to get through or navigate a new situation of those roots. like I'll give you a funny story. I know you want monk stories, but I'll give you a Coach Turnbull one. It's like the football interest meeting, and we're a bunch of ninth graders, me and my little lacrosse crew. There was like the football crew that were like, yo, these motherfuckers like don't like they do their thing. Then there was like these little like we had the flow hair, like we were the first generation of like the 2004 high school graduates of the flow hair. Coach, this is a true story, Max. I'm not shitting you. A football interest meeting freshman year. 200 people in the gym in the gym to try to make varsity football. And part of the thing was if you cannot bench press 200 pounds, stand up. And then like all right, I'm 135 pounds. Like I wrestled 135 weight class my freshman year. No, that was sophomore year. 119 is what I wrestled freshman year. So I'm like 120 maybe. And like I'm standing up, and me and my other bleach blonde hair lacrosse bros, and he's like, you will not make this team. And so what did we do? Like every lunch break or anything, we would just go to we would just put 200 pounds on the bar, have our the arc like this, and just fight for it, to try to make them it was awesome. We still joke about that today. That was yo, you don't bench 200, man, you're out. And that's what I knew at age 14. And I'll probably I think the back problems are starting to come in now, if I'm being transparent. But I still I wouldn't change a day from where I grew up, Max. So thanks for letting me brag about the cauldron where I grew up.
That's awesome. And I don't know if many people know, but obviously you are the one that got me kind of into the weight room, and it sounds like that was cooked up in ninth grade, trying to get 200 pounds off your chest.
Yeah, it was I mean, all the good-looking girls were dating the football players, and then it was I want to be a part of that team, that club.
That's awesome.
That's about the only stat I can still keep up with is that. Everything else is kind of I'm just trying to keep the chest bigger than the belly.
There you go.
I'm at that stage of my life with almost 40 coming up. So.
Hey, as long as you get 200 off the chest, you can still go play football for the Bulls. We like that. So graduate with I said it right? The state championship in lacrosse for the Bulls. That was your senior year?
Junior
okay.
Year. Yeah.
Any notable names on that team that some of the listeners would recognize, or anybody you want to shout out?
Oh man, it's actually funny. Since Coach Runk's passing, that group text has kind of circled back. And my best friend back in the day, Kyle Henninger, he had a career at York. Got to play with him in the North-South All-Star game in 2008. He made it representing the South. So did I. He scored a goal in that game, and we played at Harvard. Brett Yoder had a great career at Salisbury. Ray Whittlesberger, he didn't go on to play college lacrosse, but he's a fantastic dad that basically was the key linchpin in Virginia Tech's club team. We had a guy a year below. He was a fantastic player, Perry Menzies. He ended up going to Bucknell. But like I said, we had 5 or 6 true lacrosse guys. Then the rest were football dudes. Guy Adam Goluboski, who was an All-American linebacker at Richmond and had a small stint in some of those NFL tryout, just working his way there. And he was really big at the Baltimore Arena in the indoor league. So that, I mean, then Pat Butt, Ryan Schubert, Greg Laurel. These were just football guys that carried the cross sticks, and it was just this amazing blend that just crushed it.
And what was your role on that team?
I was a junior. I started as LSM because I was all my boys played varsity their sophomore year, and I was the one that was back as I played JV as a sophomore, and with Coach Runk, the head football coach, as my coach. So there was I thought that my boys had it easier playing varsity when I had Coach Turnbull as my JV coach, Coach Runk leading the varsity. So my role junior year, I started as the LSM. And they moved me down low, and I played with Tim Perdente, who had a great career at Washington College. Bennett Hahn was an LSM. Quinn Curtis was in goal. Man, these are names, Max. This is a blast from the past here. That shoot, I have not lived in Maryland since 2004, but it's great to go home and visit. And you hate that. Incidents like Coach Runk's passing reconnect you, but that certainly did happen this fall and into the spring. And now I'm texting with a few more guys like John Lonsdale, a guy that was a football and lacrosse athlete. So, wow, man. Go Bulls,
That's
wherever
awesome.
they are. I'll try
That's
to.
awesome.
Hopefully, they go late into the MPSSAA tournament, so I could get into the whatever stadium they're playing in. We won ours at UMBC, and now I believe that tournament's now at Mustang Stadium at Stevenson. But
Cool.
that'll be a recruiting problem in a couple months.
Cool.
Not
Well,
right now. We're focused on other things down here now.
oh yeah, no doubt. So graduate from Hereford, end up going down to Lynchburg College. Um, two ODAC championships, 05 and 08. I want to touch on any good Lynchburg stories you got, and I want to focus sort of in on that 08 ODAC championship season because I know that was one of the best teams Coach Kudelka had to that date. Kind of want to open the floor to you and see what you remember about that season and just let you run with it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny as I look around my beautiful office in Florida. There's one I'm going to reach. There's one thing that's traveled on every desk that I've ever worked at, whether it was when I was in the corporate sector before getting into high school coaching at a baby food manufacturing company, to my days at E-Town and Richmond and Lynchburg, and when we worked in a office with 5 guys as big as this one, but this was the graduating class from Lynchburg in 2008, and 5 guys from 5 different states, no, 8 guys from 5 different states, 5 All-Americans, but everybody contributed. I think all 8 should have been All-Americans. Everybody contributed, and it was in 2005, our freshman year, we came in with a relatively big class. And I always look at recruiting as something pretty funny. It's like you were recruited on something fantastic that I believe, or a vision, to a collegiate institution 2 years out. So I'm a 4 graduate. I'm going to be a freshman in 05. But 2003, so the summer, like the spring of my junior year, the spring we won a state championship at Hereford, Lynchburg had its big year. They had won their ODAC for the first time. They had beaten Salisbury. They that was Coach Kudelka's first. Yeah, the '99 team in the NCAA. I like to think of myself as an old Lynchburg historian, but the '99 team was really tough. That went to Lynchburg's first NCAA tournament. But that '03 team, all of us came based on those accolades. And I'm looking at pictures of Steve Weiss, who was a 3rd-team All-American from St. Louis. Johnny Black, Scholar All-American, St. Paul's. Taylor Stelgens was a 2-time captain from Madison, New Jersey. Ryan Cranston, 2nd-team All-American. Norby King, who started as a goalie. He ended up being an all-conference face-off guy. Garrett Kern, Massachusetts. 2nd-team All-American goalie. Kyle McGuire was the Swiss Army and glue knife of that team. Played man down, took face-off wings. He had 5. He didn't come off the field the entire second half versus Stevenson. And then there's me. It's just like we saw an unbelievable product that Coach Kudelka and that 2003 team put together. 5, we were freshmen that had a lot of big impact players from that 3 team leading us as juniors or seniors. That was one of the conference championships and NCAA tournament bids. And then our year, we were very talented. And then there were some younger guys underneath of us. If I'm going to be critical, I think, and not to take away from anything that those guys did, I take the blame on myself on May 11th, 2008. Thought we underachieved in the NCAA tournament. Lost to Washington College. I believe, we're a one goal with Salisbury. We had scrimmaged and kind of took it to Gettysburg in the fall. Like, we had the pieces, and we didn't put it together in the end. But what that group of guys did for those 8 guys that stuck together for those 4 years, and every single one of them like an All-American to me. And now, I've been to 1, 2, 3. Missed that one. I've been to every one of their weddings, but I'm the last one standing. What the hell's my problem? What the hell's my problem? I'm the last man standing of that. So if Coach Kudelka watches this, fuck, I'm working on it, pal. I'm sorry.
You're married to the game. You're married to the game. If I want to talk real quick, 08, something topical, and I think listeners can, it'll be cool for them. 2008, you would have played against Roanoke, and there's a little guy named Pat March who gotta believe would have been playing left-handed attack for the Maroons at that time. Any memories of that Roanoke game in '08?
Hey, Pat March's offense put up 24 on the Jacksonville Dolphins. So my typical cover was Zach Thomas, who was the offensive coordinator at CNU, and he was one of those attackmen that probably gave out more bruises than he received. He was tough. He was fearless. He went top side. He got across the middle. He did not care. In the riding game, I was just be covered with wilts. Zach goes down that year, and Pat's there now, QB X, and I typically played the lefty because I could get in. I'm a stature, not like big, and I just remember it was at their place. I was not a trash talker. Garrett Curran, who you know, he ran his mouth the whole freaking time, and I felt like I'm taking the slashes from his mouth or anything like that. Like quarter 4 of the game, our offense carried us. I think we put up 18 that day. They could always score at 9, 10, or I think they put up 9 or 10. And I just remember, like, at one time I really got Pat. I really got him good. And Garrett and I, this tells you about my finesse as a player. I don't know any All-Americans that had to come off in the clear because they weren't trusted to throw an overpass and had more penalties than ground balls. But I just Garrett and I had our own little call. The ball was on the ground anywhere around the turf. He would just yell fullback. And that was me just running around and just hitting things. It's just a clear space for him. So I think I take one off Pat, and I'm fullback him, and Garrett picks the ball, clears it, and he just two-hands me just right across the just golf swings my calves, and I'm just like turning like, man, it's just like it's over. You're done. But I got Pat's all. He's become a friend. I'm proud of the guys that you had Jo on. Like I'm proud of those guys that back in 06, 7, 8, we came from little schools that not many people would recognize if you've been in the premier institutions your whole career. And what he's done at Syracuse, what he did to us 24 times. It's just like I love those stories. And now we sit at a recruiting event now, and it's like, hey, you getting dinner after this? Let's talk these war stories together and vet this through. And I owe you one, you owe me one. That type of thing.
Sure. And I mean, Zach Thomas, CNU is filling up the net too. So there was something in the water down there in Roanoke, Virginia, in that sort of 06 to 2010 time. But
P3 shout out that 06 Roanoke team. One of the best Division III teams that's ever been spoken of, man. Like, those guys were dogs. They had a midi, Chris Keating. He was first team all conference, midi of the year in Division III, but first team all conference soccer player. Like, those got Rich Lee, Ben Love. I actually wanted to be one of those type of defensemen. They were 6'3". My 5'9.5" didn't get there. But, it's like some of those ODAC games, some of those Salisbury Stevenson games early, those Gettysburg Salisbury's, the Lynchburg Roanoke. Like, they were some fantastic games that I wish we had as easy to find on Huddle or Scorebreak as we do now, because those were formidable years, and like that's how we learned how to play the game. Sure. And just like you had your twist with the upstate stuff and bringing that down to Lynchburg when we got the coach together. I'm just very proud of the area I grew up in and the places it put me. And I felt like at every level in my athletic career, there was that level of value to win. There was an expectation to win. Coach Kadelka made that happen. Coach Turnbull made that happen. Coach Runk. There was an expectation to win, and on a grand scale, whether it was a state championship, conference championship, national championship, and that's all. When you got that put in you early, like I like to look at that in recruiting. I always go to my recruiting in my brains in these questions, but like expectations to win, like early on, are. Man, you get around 5, 10, 15 other guys that are like that, and those are the teams I got to be a part of. Like, they're very, very fun and rewarding days to work for.
Sure. No, and I know, I know firsthand that your will to win is unlike anybody else's. Excuse me. So even if it's on the hoops court, so I think that's an awesome attribute.
I even for loose balls. It's more of loose. It's more of will to not look like a jackass for all my misses. That I'm that like instead of will to win on a hoop on my bricks on the hoops court.
Sure. Now, before we move on to sort of your coaching philosophy, I think you bring up a cool point. Like I didn't thought about Zach Thomas, right? But yourself, Pat March, Zach Thomas, all coaching at a really high level. You got Matt Madelon, who's a Roanoke grad, coaching at a high level, coming out of the ODAC. Are there other ODAC guys that you connect with on the road? Just to sort of do a quick ODAC roll call that you have top of mind.
Oh, this is a great one. Well, Billy Cameron, who's now the head coach at Rhodes, he was a longtime assistant. He was actually the face-off guy for Roanoke. That was our face-off guy in that North-South game that we won up at Harvard Stadium. The guys that have gone, you talk with J.O., those Gettysburg guys have gone there. The Salisbury contingent have always been near and dear. They might not be at the collegiate level, but like a guy on the road. Well, Chad Sermon, head coach of Iona, he was a guy. Evan Hockel, Archbishop Spalding, and what they're doing in the MIAA right now and what he's built and that loaded roster. He was a guy that played against, then coached. No, just coached against, but our formidable years on the road, because my college coaching career had like a gap in it. Because I went private sector to high school. And so then when my freshman year of coaching were guys that catching up that like I was maybe like a few years ahead of, and then so yourself, for example, what you did at Lynchburg and the Bowdoin and the BU. It's funny. It's like I joke now. I even got freaking gray in the beard now. It's like I go to a recruiting sideline and I'm looking around. I'm like, holy shit. I've either coached against, tried to recruit, or tried to recruit or watched in high school or on this field 6 years ago, that guy that's now my peer. And I'm like, I used to be the cool young coach. I used to be the cool young coach to break into McDaniel's gym and hit the bench press during King of the Hill, RIP that event. And now I'm like the senior old guy that like this fucking grump, it's just, it's humbling, but it's rewarding all the same. And try to do my best to, if a guy had a great career, just go up and congratulate him and say, hey, welcome, anything I can do. Cause that's what people did for me.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's neat. And I think it's funny that Matt Madelon's the head coach at Princeton, coming from Roanoke. But hey, we've all got skills, and it doesn't matter. Lacrosse is lacrosse; it's not the classroom. So I think that's
they're humming, man. They're humming. Jim Mitchell was he was St. Mary's guy,
and he coached at Roanoke too, right?
Correct, exactly. Yeah,
that's my shout.
We were more the Lynchburg shout. It's like John Lombardo, one of my best defensemen I ever got to coach my time at Lynchburg. He's the head coach and athletic director at St. Mary's Riken. And down here at Jacksonville, we have they got a stud defenseman that's coming here as a product of John Lombardo. Vin Curran, gosh, what a wild man he was. But we tackle each other on the summer events when I go to see Laxachusetts Magenta, or whatever team color he's coaching, But yeah, it's Dylan Hoff. Dylan Hoff will be here this weekend. He's going to be a future Lynchburg Hall of Famer. He's down in Florida. He's got a little daughter, baby on the way. Him and his wife Aude. But he's coaching Sweet Lax, and they're going to be up here this weekend during their spring training tryouts. And so it's cool that that those that stay in it, you get connected organically, because the days are long but years are short. And then all of a sudden, catch up with one of your best friends, Dylan. He's got 2 kids that you're hugging. It's just like, whew.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I got to turn back to drink some Fountain of Youth stuff these days. But,
Oh man. Well, so you talk about going from the young cool coach to now the seasoned vet. I'm gonna use seasoned vet. I want to talk a little bit about sort of your coaching philosophy. And I want to be sort of X's and O's specific. I don't want you to dive into kind of what your size packages are and sort of what your philosophy is there, but more sort of big picture. You go from being an All-American defenseman to, yes, you had your hiatus, but you start at Lynchburg. I want to make sure I get this right. You start at, Albemarle High School. You start at Lynchburg, you go to Gettysburg, come back to Lynchburg, Richmond, Elizabethtown as a head coach, and now currently Jacksonville. Where where do you think you sort of started to build your defensive philosophy and framework for what you think is most important for playing great defense at the college level? And how long did it take you to sort of really solidify your, how do I want to say this, your sort of commitment to that philosophy?
Oh, that's a really great question. And I go back probably to Coach Runk in high school and the Coach Kadelka as a player. Like, we were taught it was less system based. It was less X's and O's based. It was like, hey, you're Chris Perzinski from Hereford. All right. He is, I can give you the Kadelka speech, but I'm going to keep a kid nameless. So he's Bing Bing from Loyola High School that went to a Big Ten school and now here. Who's the better man? And like, so that's kind of how I was coached. And so that's where it starts. Like, we can, like at a board, there's a million X's and O's things. Well, like, that sounds like homework. You know, if you can get to the ethos and the bone marrow of like, I got this matchup, like, you know, like, we got one of our captains here, like legal assault. Like, if like I say, like, you look at the stat sheet, like, they have a last name and you have a last name. It's like, to start the game, you're starting on somebody. Like, what last name are you going to remember more? And that is kind of how I was coached. That's where it starts, and then building the complementary parts around it. And the complementary parts is where, okay, he can do this, he can't do that. This is where we need to work with each other. I'm not, if you do want to get really specific, I've never been this is what we do and we can run this. You've had some of the best successful defensive coordinators already on your podcast for what they're producing this season. And I believe I could probably use a little bit more of their brains of like, when the ball is here, this is what we look like and do there. It's just there's parts of that, there's elements of that what we do teach, but I like to start with like the core of like there's one starting goalie. And for Hobart, for a number of years, it said Soberlight. Like, not 110 yards away, but like 85 yards that way. There's another one that has a last name as well. Are people going to remember Silberick or, whatever name? Like, you can win a game with 22 saves. You know what I mean? Like, and you can win a game holding their guy that averages 4-0. Like, if the pieces come together. So, starts there. And then this is a big Coach Kadelka thing that I really took from that 2014, 2015, my 2 years as a full-time there, going back after my stint with Gettysburg, is the whole needs to equal greater than the sum of its parts. And like 1 + 1 + 1, get up to 6 that are in front of the goalie, equals 6. But if the whole equals greater than the sum of its parts, that you can complement this guy this way, that he's going to be advantageous to get his man, a right-handed opponent, as a right-handed check to this area. And then that's when we can be opportunistic to a V-hold to allow slides this way. Like, that's where I think it's hard to coach that way. You have a lot of growing pains and frustrations when there's not connectivity. You can look like a jackass, at the end of the day. But I feel like my most favorite defenses I've ever coached, like, had those complementary parts. They were connected. They knew each other. They had miles logged together, and they're my favorite stories to talk about. I got group text from the 2012 defense to the 2016 when I got to work with Coach Richards, like those guys with Monzo Hines and Dennis, and 2012 Lynchburg with the toughest defense with Gill, with Sickie Lombardo, 2019 E-Town with Klippel, Knapp, and Coates. No, that was 2018. It's just 2022 here with Smith and Hinton and Heed and Jordan Young. And it's just like, damn. Like, and that's the back line. Then you fill those complementary parts above it. So probably more people-based,
Sure.
And then you build the scheme around it.
Sure.
With some core fundamentals of disruption but I hear that and I think about what had some of the most success was like those guys came. 2015, Leader, Lombardo, and Hunter Thompson. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about 2015 Lynchburg, but I'll give you it, and you can edit it out.
I want it.
Spring break 2015. This is a verbatim story. I was in charge of booking and planning spring break. I think Coach Kudelka gave me like a $25,000 budget. Typical Lynchburg Coach Kudelka fashion. We were playing Gettysburg and Endicott in the first 10 days of March. Gettysburg, Central Pennsylvania, and Beverly, Massachusetts in the first 10 days of March. We're going to drive to Gettysburg, play Gettysburg, finish the game, drive up to Beverly, Massachusetts, play, that was supposed to be a Saturday, drive up on a Friday, play Saturday. Sunday, we were to practice at Gettysburg, then drive up, practice at Endicott Monday, play Endicott Tuesday, drive back. 14 hours, spring break, 14-hour drive back. Friday's normal. Get up. I think we practice in the morning. Get up, land in Gettysburg. Coach Kudelka's favorite pizza spot that he was a pizza delivery guy for. Load up the hotel, the Days Inn that was right behind the Perkins. And if anyone's spent any time at Gettysburg or the old school Gate Cup tournaments, supposed to play Saturday. Heavy snow comes in, crushes us. Game can't be played. Game can't be practiced. Like Saturday was us in the hotel room watching film. With whatever DVDs we had that could take with us back at the time. And game moves to Sunday, which would have been our typical departure time. All right, we lose that game 7-6. I thought we played pretty tough defensively against an extremely talented Gettysburg team. Robbie Maddox and Mike Disler and Jamison Smith. They had dudes. I think they had an All-American at every position on their offense. We lose 7-6. All right, game's over Sunday. Drive up to Beverly, Massachusetts. 45-minute practice at Endicott's Field on Beverly, Massachusetts Monday. Played Tuesday, and we lose like 16-15. Everything went wrong. That core defense was like my three most alphas. Where I thought that was the group. These are the guys that win the matchup. Blah, 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 blah. Well, the 14-hour bus ride back. I'm in the front with Coach Kudelka. We just gave up 16, and I'm beside myself. I look over to Vin Curran. I was in charge of planning the whole hotels and meals. I had a $22,000 budget for this whole thing, for the pizzas, the meals, everything. And I look over we go 0-2 on spring break. And meanwhile, those were our first two losses. We beat Salisbury early, beat Cabrini early. So those were back-to-back losses. I look over to Vin and John, and Vin Curran, John Lombardo, Dylan Hoff. That was the staff, and me. I look over, I'm like, man, thanks for the $22,000 bath of spring break. I just pissed away all this money to give up 16 goals and lose 2 games. Sitting in front of us with Coach Kudelka, and he's like, we just have independent contractors. It's like, we got my fault for having a number one, but don't play together. Our LSM at that time was Hunter Thompson, senior, kid from Salem, Virginia. All right, and Hunter was crafty stick. It was ugly, but it was crafty. And Cole Barrett was the guy that he's like a CrossFit champion. Him and his fiance just these are the guys. And then you got a future first team All-American and Eric Lombardo, and then you have also an all-conference defenseman Evan Leader. I thought I had my 3 guys that would never give up a goal. Hunter Thompson, LSM. We finally get back at whatever god awful hour, and or maybe it was that next day. And I call Hunter, and I'm like, Hunter Thompson, hey, listen, they're good defensemen down there, but something ain't working. They can't play in the same sandbox together. It's they got to realize that they share a locker room. But right now it ain't clicking down there. And so I think I want to move you down the close defense and bump Cole Barrett up to play Polk because he was the most capable to be versatile. Hunter Thompson on that phone had an absolute tremendous meltdown. Coach, what are you talking about? I've never taken an approach behind the cage. I've been doing this for 4 years. You're going to screw my entire senior year. It was just all right, this guy, he was very in tune to himself. He was very calculated. He was one of those guys that meal prepped and everything, just extremely in tune to who he was. And so I just say, give me one day. Give me one day, Hunter. Go down, Make sure Eric Lombardo and Evan Leader play nice with each other and share the tools in the sandbox. All right, and you're going to be the glue guy. You're going to pick off passes. You're going to get up the ground balls. You're going to clean up the garbage. You're going to get free slides because they're going to tie guys up. Cole's going to go up there and he can be a little bit more freelance and be a little bit more rogue up top. And he had success in that first practice. We did not lose a game until the national championship against Tufts, and he ended up being honorable mention All-American as a defenseman, and that is one of my favorite personnel marrying just guys together, the whole equaling greater than the sum of its parts, and that was a really special. That was a growth moment for me. And thinking when you got 3 number ones, you're good. And it was a growth moment, that 14-hour bus ride back from Beverly, Massachusetts to Lynchburg, giving up 16 goals to Coach Quirk. That was Coach Quirk's last year. Coach another goalie, Sean Quirk, Springfield, D3. But man, that I still laugh at that story. And when I see these guys at weddings, that stuff comes up. Hunter, remember that meltdown, on the phone, and then you end up being an All-American? He actually in the in the quarterfinals versus Salisbury, fourth quarter, we're defending away from our box, and I knew they were going to do their steak Ricky or steak Lucy thing, and I'm like, hey, you got to anchor into the crease, all right? And if they don't backside exchange, like they're throwing it in, and like Hunter picked that ball off when they were on their 4th goal run. It was a big, fun hug moment for us, and they're just proud of Hunter and his versatility, and those guys buy into each other. So that was a cool coaching moment. That season was great, obviously, but that was one.
Yeah, and just to level set, like you took that, you and Coach Kudelka and Coach Curran and Coach Lombardo and Coach Hoff all rode that season with all those incredible players to the national championship game. So you've been at the pinnacle of our sport. I don't care what level, that's the pinnacle of college lacrosse. Now you've been at the Division I level, a top 20 team with Jacksonville, and I wish we had more time so we could dive into the Jacksonville thing, but given your experience at both levels, I'm curious. I think it's going around Twitter right now. The Tufts men's lacrosse team.
I saw that. I was worried if you could ask me this one.
Yeah, they tweeted out that they wanted a matchup with Harvard after Harvard beat Boston University on Tuesday night to crown the champion of Boston. I'm curious where your head goes around that argument of Division I versus Division III, and I would love to banter with you a little bit about it.
I have been consistent with my response here since I made the move, when Coach Chamati and Coach Richards gave me the opportunity at Richmond, and everyone asked, what's the biggest difference? Number one is time. It's the access to the players. It's the constraints you can put on their day. But this is what I've said from day one. I've never looked at this sport with a Roman numeral. I know some Division III guys that, look at Jacksonville. When you look at Max Walbaum, who was a All-American attackman in the first year he came and joined us and helped the 2022 season where we went 14-3 here and had some successes against some ACC teams. And Max Walbaum has 4 goals, against an ACC team on national television. I don't look at the sport with a Roman numeral. It's like I believe that if the number 1 Division III team in football and the number 1 Division III team the number 1 Division III team in football and the number 1 in Alabama went at it, it's probably different. Probably same in the March Madness right now. Our sport, because of the creativity you're allowed, you could be slow and unbelievably skilled and find a role. You could be unbelievably athletic and might not have as much skill and find a role. And I can go deep dive in. It's like, what do the guys do when they're 18 to 22? Is like the best 14-year-old okay? Did he have access early? Did he grow earlier? Did he pick up stick faster? I don't know. I don't look at the sport with a Roman numeral. Those that say it's all one, it's all the other. Like I doubt that they have experiences with both. And I'm talking to a guy that I'm on this because I love you, and I'm on because we work together, and you've experienced both. That's vague, but it's been consistent, honestly, that I do not look at this sport with a Roman numeral. And those that do, I wonder what other experiences have across the fence.
Sure. Yeah, no, I when I look at it, and I think the top, and is it the top 20? Like, you look at a bunch of teams in Division III, they can compete in Division I. Those guys are like you talked about it. Max Waldbaum made the jump. You look at guys just this year alone. Matthew Pauletto, for faceoff guy for Rutgers, played 4 years at Union. You look at Dylan Donahue, goalie at Providence. He's their starter now as a graduate student. Like, you put a team of those dudes together, and the Salisburys from back in the day, the Lynchburgs of 2015, the Tufts and their national championship runs with the Upgrins and the Bo Woods, Cole Baileys, the Sean Kerwins, right?
Yeah.
Talk about a guy who found a role. Yeah, Division III. I think those teams could win. I think Tufts could put up a fight against Boston University or Harvard. There's no doubt about it. But I think there is a cutoff, right? There's a level somewhere. But I think those top 15 Division III teams.
The elite are the elite. The top
Totally.
1%, when all of them get together, like
Totally.
that's that.
Totally.
I don't know if we are from 1 to 70, right there. And then you look at what each institution offers academically. You know what I mean? Because I think what people, it's because there is a lack of life as an athlete after graduation. Like, student athletes could search for maybe a academic first and then with high level lacrosse.
Sure.
And and when I'm as a guy that's heavily involved in recruiting, it's like, where are you going to be happiest?
Sure.
And that Max Waldbaum, who was a late bloomer but wanted academics first, and then how terrible COVID was, awarded young men opportunities to explore their careers further.
Sure.
And then you find these happy marriages. It's just like everybody has a different story. I think it's humbling that I think, like, if I were to speak to a young high school team that's practicing out here right now, I'd say, like, if you just take care of yourself and your development, and like you look in the mirror, like, what can I do today? You don't know where your road is going to go, and you don't know where it's going to end the more you put in. Not to have like a TED talk here, but like, that's just like, well, yeah, I didn't do. By the way, like, this is my probably, like, listen, I appreciate all the stuff you said about my accolades and stuff, like, but my number one favorite thing I achieved at Lynchburg was I was the unsung hero in my freshman year. That meant, like, when you have to make your tournament roster and there's 32 guys. I was not dressed for that first conference championship and that first NCAA tournament. And then senior year, it's like, just keep going. Like, your story ain't over. Like, and so if there's any young people on the Nothing Near Post podcast that wants to clip it or snip it, it's just like, just keep going. And worry about what comes on the other side when the other side shows itself.
Sure.
It's just like, leap and the net will appear, and you'll end up where your feet are supposed to be.
Sure. Yeah, I think couldn't agree more. There's no doubt about it. But to bring it back to the Division I versus Division III, I think Tufts puts up a good game against Harvard and puts up a good game against BU.
Yeah.
I think BU has a chance to win against Harvard and against Tufts. I think Tufts has got a chance to win against both. Harvard's got a chance to win against both. And there's good lacrosse all over the country. I mean, There's good lacrosse in Jacksonville, Florida, both the college level and I think recently, McDonough went down to Florida and lost to somebody down there on a spring break trip against the high school team, right? Like, there's good lacrosse everywhere. I love what you're saying about, I don't look at it with a numeral. I agree. I think it's like a team makeup thing, right? Like, how do the teams match up? But it's something that I think a lot of recruits actually get super focused. I'm a Division I lacrosse player, and to be honest with you, I think that absolutely is a detriment to their development, not only as a lacrosse player but as a person. And I think athletes should be looking Division I, Division III, Division II. Go find a place that's really good for you, for what you bring to the table on the lacrosse field and what the school can bring to you as far as developing you as a young man. But to bring it back to the field, I think anybody in those top echelons at either level can beat anybody, right? Like, even a CNU could go play somebody. Salisbury could go play somebody even on a down year. York College could go play somebody in Division I and beat them. I mean, just because it's regional to me, I mean, everyone's like, oh, Harvard would blow the doors off Tufts, BU would blow the doors off Tufts, and that's just not true. I mean, Tufts goes up to Dartmouth before Sean Kerwin and beats them pretty handedly, right? Yeah. And I don't think at that time Dartmouth was a top 20 team, and then maybe not even a top 40 team. But still, like, there is good lacrosse being played at every level, no matter the numeral.
And you look at a lot of the institutions that offer lacrosse at Division 1, 2, and 3. They're really good schools.
Totally.
Like, really good schools attract really good people. Really good people are typically hard workers. Really good people are typically high achievers.
Sure.
You know, so it's just like, oh, like, where the hell did this kid come from? Where the hell did Max Ballbaum come from? He came just working his balls off,
Sure.
and because he went to a really good school,
Sure.
and so.
Sure. Now, I do want to. We got a little bit of time here. Let's turn it to the Dolphins real quick. And I know you, as the associate head coach at Jacksonville, you're head down trying to win ball games. Started 0-2, went on a 5-game run. Took a hiccup against the Tar Heels, who are looking like a top 5 team this year. Now we're staring down the barrel at ASUN play,
ASUN, you're right. You're right.
ASUN play. I had SoCon in my head.
Yeah, that's no more than the 8-10 ASUN.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're staring down the barrel at ASUN play. Air Force is coming to Jacksonville this weekend. Military Appreciation Day. That's awesome. I think that's a great thing. I know Jacksonville does a ton of stuff in the community. Jacksonville lacrosse specifically. Looking at those first 8 games, what have you liked? And then looking forward, what are you most excited about?
That's a fantastic question. Look at that schedule. It's funny. Like, our schedule, Coach Galloway put one hell of a opportunity in front of us with three of the 5 ACC teams, and probably unprepared for 2 of them. Didn't showcase our best self, and the other one we battled, but we were February 8th. We were still young in some parts, but since the UNC game, we lost 4 teams of the ASUN from 2024 to 2025. Filling a lot of those games. So March 22nd was a void where other conferences have started play. We kind of did not have that filled. We spent and that was spring break last week. So we had all of last week of spring break with no magnitude of a game of a pressure cooker. The amount of time our guys spent out there together, the amount of time they were in here, the amount of time that we were out at the beaches doing something, doing a bonfire, it was just like, It felt like what we would go to overnight camp with, with extra skill sessions, extra touches, more banter, and Coach Galloway strategically is like, we're not going to put a pressure cooker before ASUN play. We're going to make it all about us. We didn't even pad up, until Monday. And Max, a game's going to happen on Saturday. We had I don't know the result. I can't control the outcome of the game. Can't predict it. We had our best 2 practices Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week, and it's just been like the guys, we practice in the morning. Guys are still here. It's 4:00. We ended the day at 9 for them, and they're still dicking around or shooting around. It's just like we were starting 3 freshmen, and they're eating lunch, with a senior, and it's just like those moments. So what am I looking forward to the most is that conscious and deliberate effort to take the game pressure down and really be conscious of the team and connectivity. What will that look like through the best month of lacrosse? This is it. This is where you make it. It's April. I mean, we get the good weather a couple weeks ago, but when I was living in the Mid-Atlantic, I was like, April is the best, man. It's the best teams start to play their best. The tournament's on the horizon. Academics are you see a little light in a tunnel. Up in the north, chicks ain't wearing parkas. They're back to sit next to me in the calf, type of thing. It's the time. And so I want to believe that down at Jacksonville, that conscious effort to focus on us and our connectivity. We'll see. We'll see, because the jury's still out. But I'm really proud of the result of those decisions that happened. So
cool. Yeah, you got a big Dolphins fan in me. I'm excited for conference play to start up. You might have to send me that row pad over your shoulder so that I can wrap it up.
I'm not. You know what? I pulled this down. So if anyone listens to this, I'm a sentimental guy. You saw my teammates. That's my Team Poland shaft. That was a memento. My 30th birthday present. All right. Started I turned 30 in 2016. My 30th birthday present started in 2014 when Coach Silberlicht was coaching against me when I was at Poland with his colleague, his buddy Rob, who had a connection to the Aquasansi Nation with Lewis Mitchell, an authentic Lewis Mitchell. It sits in the highest shelf I have of all of the offices I've had since I was 30. Max is carried with me just like that, and that was you to thank. Hand delivered at McDaniel College at a King of the Hill recruiting tournament. And I wanted Max, you to make sure that love and that time and that appreciation for me. You know, you beat us by 7. I had 2 goals and 3 assists that game as a defenseman. So pissed off that we lost and got knocked out, but you earned the win.
I love that stick follows with you. I've got my own Lewis Mitchell as well. It's this game is special and not just because of what happens on the field. But before I let you go, I want to play a little game.
Yes.
If you've got a couple of minutes here.
This is vacation for me. We catch the morning. I'm catching up with my own friend here.
Before we jump into the game, I want to look at a tweet that you sent out there December 22nd, 2022. And the tweet says, and be quick here, all right? Tweet says, if you're like me and canceled by Southwest Air going from BWI to Jax on Thursday, 12/29, I've acquired a vehicle and will be arriving to Jacksonville 8 to 9 p.m.-ish Thursday night. I have 2 empty seats and some space for baggage. DM me if I can help you in any way. The question is, did anyone take you up on that offer?
Got a DM, but they didn't take the offer. They didn't logistically work out.
All right.
I got lots of DMs, but one specific was like, hey, I'm here. Can this? Just didn't work out.
All right. That would have been a hell of a road trip. All right. I want to close this out, and I appreciate your time. We could have talked for hours, but a little game that I like to play called This or That. I basically give you 2 options. You got to pick one. Okay?
Yep.
And it's all mixed up. We got some personal stuff. We got some food stuff. We got some lacrosse stuff. But this should be fun. So first one, this or that. And I think I know the answer. Bench press or bicep curls?
Bench press.
Oh, yeah. Easy. Being a Baltimorean, this or that. Crab cakes or a crab bake?
Cake.
Got to have a crab cake. Going off of that, this or that. Ocean Pride or Corner Stable?
Corner Stable. Great. Oh, gosh, that's purgatory right there. Corner Stable, sit at the bar, play 4-spot Keno, and get the Maryland crab soup, possibly with the bloomin' onion that they have.
Oh, the Maryland crab soup. Do they
and the ribs, and you got to get the showstopper. That's a full rack of ribs and a crab cake.
Amply named.
Getting me fired up for summer recruiting.
Oh, man. Does Corner Stable do a good crab pretzel too? I'm a sucker for a crab pretzel.
You are a crab pretzel. To me, I don't like to mix my crab, my jumbo lump bluefin crab with any more bread. Right. So I stay away. But yes, they got it for you.
All right.
I'll just judge you when you order it.
Perfect. That's all right. I'm confident enough in myself. You know that about me. Yep. Speaking of getting on the road recruiting, if you can't go to Ocean Pride or Corner Stable, Applebee's or Chili's?
Chili's, 100%.
Chili's, I love it.
Mark Perzinski grew up at Chili's or a variety of Chinese carryouts. So,
I asked this one to Coach Kester because he obviously spent some time in Baltimore. He didn't have a great answer, but this or that, the Hunt Cup or Preakness?
Preakness. Hunt Cup's for the younger generations out there, for the future recruits of JU.
All right. Last one that I got for food. This or that. Angie's Sub in Jacksonville. I saw in the Mitchell Pelkey piece that the boys hit that up often. Or Yellow Sub in Lynchburg, Virginia.
I got the answer. I'm just worried about my professional well-being. I'm going Yellow Sub with Todd, but he since sold it now to another great family, but the Rock Hills. So maybe they've since sold it, but going Yellow Sub, going back to my roots. Angie's is fun. We might have spent $2,000 there last week of spring break, but I'm going yellow.
All right. I got to check out Angie's Sub for sure. All right. This or that. All right. And I saw a tweet that you threw out there about this, and you used both, but I want to see if you can pick one. This or that. Hard hat or lunch pail?
Lunch pail.
You're bringing your lunch pail.
Yeah. You use your hands to fill the pail. And you carry the pail. Hard hat, you go to work, but you create what's in that pail to fuel you for the day.
I love it. This or that, V-hold or cross-check when you defending an attackman on the island?
Cross-check hold.
Cross-check hold. All right. Well, Nothing Near Post just did a deep dive. We got in the lab. I'm curious. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
I can really break. There is a time and place for the V hold of certain matchups and how it goes. But if we can get the cross-check hold early, I would send them to an area where our goalie likes it. Hey, I don't. Now we're getting the leads.
All right. Well,
this or that. It's fun. I'm gonna do this with my players.
I'll have to send you the lab link. See what you have to say about my breakdown. Last two, and I know these are topical. This or that. Flacco or Lamar?
Lamar.
Wow. All right. I love it. We love the future of the Ravens. All right. And then the last one. This or that. Ravens 2001 Super Bowl or the Ravens 2013 Super Bowl? 2001.
8th grade. We didn't score a touchdown for 13 quarters. There was a guy in Baltimore that lived on his roof until we scored. We won with Matt Stover kicking field goals and Rod Woodson and Chris McAllister picking off passes. That's what as terrible of a stick I had. I played attack until middle school. And the combination of the Ravens defense and not enough defensemen showing up for one practice, that's why I'm a defenseman. Like that. Oh, my God. This or that. I'll do the whole freaking starting lineup. With Dwayne Starks, you got Michael McCrary, you got Tony Saragusa, RIP, you got Rob Burnett. Sam Adams was the interior of that defensive line. Jamie Sharper, Michael Boulware, Ray Lewis. And then I already gave you the secondary. That and Marvin Lewis, DC. That was football. That was seeing Ray Lewis and Eddie George go at it and those two back to and oh gosh, that was sports, man. That was awesome. Sports. 34-7 against the Giants, and the only touchdown we gave up was a kick return. Then Jermaine Lewis returned one back on the next kickoff. Kerry Collins 4 interceptions. That was that team, baby. That Super Bowl.
Defense wins championships. Unbelievable. Have defensive coordinator and associate head coach Coach Perzinski of the Jacksonville University Dolphins on the Nothing Near Post show. Can't thank you enough, man, for the time.
Man. I'm proud of you. I love you. Thank you for this. This is too long to catch up. You probably don't want me as a regular. No one should want me as a regular here, but man, just to see you smiling and all your successes, Max. Thanks for having me.
Hell yeah. Well, and best of luck to you and the whole squad this weekend as you open up conference play against Air Force. But until then, man, we'll talk soon, and good luck.
Go get him. Go get him, Niner.
Big thanks to Coach Perzinski. Him and I could have chatted for hours. So much that we didn't cover. We'll have to have him back, even though he says he doesn't want to be a recurring guest and shouldn't be. That's absolute BS. And one more quick shout out. Jason Lach out of Washington, D.C. in the St. Albans School for becoming the Bowdoin College all-time leading goal scorer. Go P-Bears, and congrats, Jason. That's all we got for this week's episode of the Nothing Near Post Show. Appreciate you all for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube and the Spotify pages, and make sure to share it with your friends. We're trying to grow this thing and talk about the sport with the greater community. So, but until next time, please don't forget rule number 1. You know what it is. Nothing near post.